Welcome to my review of Beyond Two Souls, a game by Quantic Dreams for the PlayStation 4.
The ability to see what no human being has ever seen before. It's all mixed up in my head. The images, the sounds, the smell. I need to remember.
And that is the beginning of the game. This is very much a non-linear game, very much focused on the storytelling. It centers around Jodie, who has the special powers. If you've seen Stranger Things or similar sorts of series, you might get a feel for what's going to be happening here. Jodie has a special connection. It's called Beyond Two Souls for a reason. So what we find out is that Jodie is connected to a spirit, Aiden, who becomes very much a part of the game. So this is a game told in two halves, that of Jodie and of Aiden. You start off learning how to control Aiden, move him around, which is fun. One of the good things about this is that when you take over Aiden, you are able to interact with a lot more of the environment than is immediately obvious. The only downside is that there's an artificial limit as to how far Aiden can go away from Jodie. Indeed, one of the things I've felt was a little bit disappointing is that often you'd like to be able to jump into Aiden's character to play the game in a different way, but the game wouldn't allow you to. Now, I said that it is very much a game about the two of them, but in reality it is Jodie's story and her interactions. And if you hadn't guessed it, there's some A-grade actors here, Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page. One of the criticisms I have of the game is that whilst it does have a really good build-up in terms of training, in terms of teaching the different game mechanics, it's most probably a little bit too long. They could have simplified it down quite a bit. So the first half, or the first part of the game, kind of feels a bit by the numbers, and as if you're back at school. I mean, it doesn't take that much training just to click buttons. One of the things I really didn't like was the combat and the physical movements, where you had to do a lot of the sort of directional controller presses based on context. Found it really quite clunky. Now that could just be me, but it's a Tickle Monster. But yeah, sometimes I just got a little bit frustrated with the controls. It is very much sort of a stealth type game for the most part, with a little bit of combat thrown in. The combat and stealth mechanics work reasonably well together, especially when combined with Aiden. It adds a whole range of different possibilities. But Jodie's story is quite an interesting one.
I'm gonna shake some hands.
Including, of course, working for the CIA. So, let's face it, if you had a supernatural ally that you could control, you'd most probably end up working for the CIA too. So, the story is actually quite interesting, and there's a lot of depth, and that's one of the things that make the Quantic Dream games so immersive and enjoyable. You do feel like you are living as part of either a movie or a story. So it's sort of you get to experience and understand Jodie's feelings, her direction. Now, whilst I said it's mostly a stealth game, I think at its heart it really is a science fiction adventure. And that those elements work really well. It adds. There's a lot of mystery there. There's a lot of interesting things to discover. And there are parts of the game that get really quite eerie and spooky when the monsters come out. And Jodie has a bit of the Ripley to her, so it's a good sort of mix of suspense, drama, action, and a little bit of horror. So overall, it really is a great experience, but it focuses on experience and on the story. As a game, though, it is a little bit restrictive and clunky, but overall, I'd give it a 7.9.